Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining for our presentation on vacation tracking in SharePoint. This will be a lot of fun. This solution has some great components to it, so I'm glad you guys could be here. I think you're going to like what you see. I'm Will Cooper. I am the training coordinator for Infowise, and I'm a SharePoint consultant. I do everything and anything that relates to SharePoint. And I also run a platform called SharePoint Dashboards, and we're going to hear more about that later in the presentation. First, we're going to focus on this solution in SharePoint, and then for those of you who want to stick around, you can learn some more about an awesome SharePoint dashboard solution. About Infowise, we really like to make things simple and easy to work with. That's really what we're looking for as it relates to SharePoint. And we're all about continuously improving our tools. So I really enjoy working with our team, and I love that our product just keeps getting better and better. This is a comprehensive tool set that you can add to SharePoint. It's available both for on-premise SharePoint and also for SharePoint Online. And it requires that you will not have to do any code, so no programming required. You can do everything directly from the SharePoint interface. Just to cover some ground rules, we do want your input. So the way you can do that is to use the questions interface in GoToWebinar. So please do make your comments and questions there. Please be patient. It may take some time to circle around to that, but before we end our session today, either I will answer your question or somebody from our team will help you out. We are going to do a drawing for an Infowise embroidered polo shirt towards the end of the presentation, so be sure to stick around for that. That is just for people living inside the United States, just because of the postal costs and that type of thing. So be sure that you're in the US if you're going to enter for that drawing. We are recording this, and that means this will be up on YouTube later today, so you don't have to scramble to take notes or anything like that. If you want to check out the video later to check any information or share it with your colleagues, you can do that as well. All right, so now we're ready to dive in. As I mentioned, Ultimate Forms is available both for SharePoint Online and also for on-premise SharePoint. So everything I show you today, you can do the same type of system and set up for both different versions of SharePoint. This is how I think of SharePoint out of the box. It's difficult to do everything that you want to do. It's limited or confusing. You may have to use a convoluted process to do what you want. And so it's important to have all the tools that you need, and that's where Ultimate Forms comes in. Our tools allow you to easily tap into key functionality, especially custom forms, automatic email alerts, and to be able to display your data on dashboards the way your users will want to see it. It's easy and fun to work with, and these tools are great. Not only can this help you set up a solution, as we're going to see today, for vacation tracking, it can let you do all kinds of different solutions. So this is really something that can empower your organization to build out those custom forms and processes in SharePoint the way you want. All right, let's focus in on the topic of our presentation today, which is vacation tracking. Let's start by identifying some key concepts. These are things that I've identified as critical to have a successful vacation tracking system for your employees. Vacation is fun. We all look forward to it. It's a reward for our hard work. We get some time off, and therefore the user experience and presentation for your system needs to reflect that. It shouldn't be boring to look at. It should be enjoyable and simple for your employees to request time off and for anybody using it. So that's an important aspect of it. The request for vacation, that needs to be very easy. It should really not be complicated for somebody to just be able to make a request and say, hey, I want to take off for a week next month. And so the form needs to reflect a simple, streamlined process. Approval for vacation, this is incorporated into the system. Likewise, the approval process needs to be as simple as possible. And you'll see in the system we set up that it's just really a one-step approval process. So it doesn't take any time or extra steps for managers to go ahead and give that approval for the time off. Instructions are always important. And what I recommend is that we include instructions right in the request form that tell the users exactly how it works. So it reminds them of the steps and what's going to happen and how the system works, that type of thing. And we want to make sure that we can include that directly in the form. Of course, we want to have automated email notifications, and they should be very simple. It's a simple call to action. We need an email to notify the manager when an employee is requested for time off, and then to be able to link back to the form so the manager can approve. And then also we need to have an email go out when the vacation gets approved so that employee knows that they're good to go. And then we have hours tracking. In many organizations, your staff has a certain block of hours that's allocated to them based on their position and how long they've been with the organization, that type of thing. And so typically you have a set number of hours that are allowed over the course of the calendar year. We don't want to have to do any manual updates. We want our system to automatically keep up with that so that our HR staff, for example, knows where everybody is, the managers know. And additionally, as an employee, I need to be able to check my hours and see, well, hey, how many vacation days do I have left? That should be really easy to see that information as part of the tool. And then here's the big one, the calendar. We want to be able to see who's in, who's out in any given week. And we need to see a shared calendar which shows this so that in any given week, if any of the staff want to see if somebody's out and who's going to be handling work, you can just go to the shared vacation calendar to see that very simply and quickly. And then we want to have a alternative view. The month view calendar is really handy, but in some cases even better is a Gantt chart view, which can show you employee by employee. It helps us see the overlap between different schedules. So having an alternative calendar view is also going to be really handy. And then we need a personalized dashboard. Of course, in many organizations, you have many employees and they're going to just really need to see their own information. They shouldn't have to do a bunch of scrolling or digging to find their requests or vacation. It should be just a matter of clicking on a button where it can show their vacation that's been approved and also their total. So personalized views are important. And then in the form, we need to incorporate some custom validation, especially as it relates to approval. We wouldn't want something silly like somebody approving their own vacation request. So we need to secure that and make sure that only the manager is doing that. And then also we need to do things like if for some reason a manager has to decline that vacation request, we need to validate the form and make sure they enter some notes to explain why that's the case so they can circle back to the employee and they can then make another vacation request for a time that's going to be approved. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to SharePoint. This solution's in SharePoint Online, but as I mentioned, all of what I'm going to show you is something that can work also for on-premise SharePoint. We're going to look at this solution from a user perspective first, and then later in the presentation, I'm going to explain to you how this is set up. I should mention this is going to be set up in our tool as a free template. So everything I show you today will be available later today to download directly from our interface into your own SharePoint environment. So you can use this own system for yourself and then modify it according to your own purposes. So this is our main dashboard. Very simple and easy to understand. If I click on this button here, that will allow me to make a new vacation request. I can go to the personalized dashboards for my vacation and my vacation totals, and then we have the calendar. So let's start by just browsing around through those dashboards and show you what they look like and explain how those work. We have two main lists. One is the vacation list. These are where the requests go in. You can see that this has a polished interface to make it more user-friendly. So we're showing the employee profile picture next to their name, and then we have some formatting for the start and end date. So it's very easy to look at, and especially of importance is the approval field, which indicates the status. And then we have a total quantity of hours for that vacation. So we'll just look at this particular request, which is already approved. And this is some of what we talked about. So here we go, Will Cooper vacation request. It just has my name. I switched the manager to me just so I could demonstrate the approval process. It's approved. And then entering the total number of hours, which we need as part of the automated tracking. So from a management standpoint, you can see in this dashboard, all the requests that have been approved or pending or declined and so on. Those are all going to go there. And then we have a second list, which is important. This is the aggregated totals for vacation. This is handled automatically. So your staff members have different amounts of allotted vacation. So we have 3 columns here. We have the hours available, which is the total number of hours available to that employee throughout the calendar year. And then in the middle column, we have the total number of hours that have been used already. And then the last column shows what remains. So of course, that's just the hours available minus the hours used. And what's great about this is that there is an automated process set up, which I'll show you more about later, which automatically updates this information. And then the other key view is our calendar. This is a special calendar web part that's part of the Ultimate Forms tools, which is going to show that shared calendar, which helps our organization know on any given week who's out on vacation. And when I hover over events in the calendar, I can get more detailed information. Really simple to work with. I can just page through the calendar. And then, as I mentioned, I can also go into this Gantt chart view. It should be noted that this is going to show just the vacation that's been approved. At that point, it would actually show up on the calendar. So hopefully you'll agree this is a simple, easy to understand, easy to use interface. Next, let's actually walk through the process that'll give you a more complete picture. So I'm going to put in a new vacation request for myself for August. Now, I'm going to put myself in for the manager just because I have some security set up to make it where only the manager can do the approval. But normally, your staff will just put in the name of their manager who's going to approve the request. So notice the employee automatically filled in. We have a rule in there to make it default to the current user, which just makes it that much simpler for them. All right, so I'm going to put a request in for the last week in August. So there's my start date, and then I'm going to go and put my end date. So it's going to be the week of August 22nd. And then in the last field, we're going to enter the hours. Now, in some cases, sometimes people take half days of vacation, things like that, and that's why we're having them to enter the hours. And also, that's the reason why we have an approval process, just to make sure that that's done correctly. That's all that I need to do to make a request for vacation. So I can read through my notes here, and I just hit save. At this point, it's going to automatically generate an email notification to my manager, which will alert them that one of their staff members has requested vacation. Now, this is sorted chronologically according to the date. So my new request here is down at the bottom. And this is what the manager will access. So the manager is going to go in here and take a look and say, sure, no problem. You're good. We don't have any conflicts with our staff for that week. you're good to go. I approve your request. And notice something happens in the form when I do the approval. The start, end date, and the hours become locked in. And that's important because we wouldn't want a situation where the vacation was approved and then somebody came back behind later and changed the dates or something like that. And also, we have field level security in this form set up, which makes it such that if you're not the manager, you cannot control the approval field. Just to demonstrate that, you'll notice if I put in another name here, if it was another name, notice I can't change that field. So we do have some protection to ensure that our process is followed the way that we intend. Okay, that's going to trigger yet another email back to the employee that'll let them know, hey, good news, your vacation was approved. And then additionally, it's going to make it so that in the vacation calendar view, we're going to see that. If I go and scroll, there is vacation because I'm on the books for vacation. That's been officially approved. And then the other piece of that was the vacation totals, and that automatically updates as well. So the amount of hours used and the hours left, all of that's going to be automatically recalculated each time there's vacation going through. So it's a really simple, easy to understand system. And I'll just demonstrate also the My Vacation view. That's just going to filter the request down so that the employee just sees their own requests because they don't really need to see all the other requests. And then likewise, from the homepage, I can go to my totals and just see, well, how many hours have I used, how many hours are left, and that type of thing. All right, so now let's get into the way this is set up in our interface a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the vacation list, and when you have Ultimate Forms set up in your environment, you're going to have extra options which show up in your interface. Probably the most important one would be the link to the design screen, and this is a hub for all the different settings and things that you could do. As you're starting out with these tools for the first time, I recommend that you start by working with Form Designer. This is a drag and drop style interface which lets you build out a custom form, and you can set it to look however you want. As an example, if I wanted to change the color of that section, I can just pick a different color swatch, hit OK, and save, and you can see what whatever you do, you're going to see it real time in the form. So it's really easy to work with. So there are controls out here, and I can just do things like drag fields out into the form, and they'll just adjust the interface. And I can do things like a multi-column setup. In this case, I'm set for 3 columns. So it's really easy to work with. I'm not having to do any coding to get that set up. And then as you can see, I put in a little picture up here just to make it friendly. And then dynamically, I entered the name of the employee in the heading. So it says, Will Cooper vacation request, that type of thing. And then you can set rules. Remember that I said the employee is going to default to the current user. Did I have to do any programming for that? No, I did not. It's very easy. I simply added a rule. I select dynamic rule, and I have this function here called current user. I can just double click that, and that will tell the system, go ahead and put in the name of the person who's logged in. And I have it set to do that just on the new form. That's all it took to get that functionality. The security on the manager is also easy to set up. So the way this goes is that I want to make approval editable only by the manager. And so I have rules in here. First of all, I don't want that to show when the request is first created. So I put a hidden rule on the new, and that's what you see in red. And then for edit, I say, this is going to be writable for edit and display if the current user is equal to the manager. And what happens if that's not the case is that I have another rule that just says, well, then otherwise it's read only. And that way we can control that, and you can ensure that only your managers are the ones that actually do the approval for that request. Remember also that I had some rules here where I said, now that it's approved, I don't want to allow any changes to the start, end, or hours because that should be fixed. It's already been approved, and we want to lock that down. So we make it writable if it's not approved, but if it otherwise we want it to be read. So only in the case where the approval is not set to approved. Then we want to do things like validation rules. If they decline and say, obviously the employee is going to want to know, well, what happened? How come I couldn't get that approved? What do I do? What's the next step? That type of thing. And so for that, we want to have special validation rules. And you can do what you call conditional validation. I can indicate that if the approval equals decline, I need something in the notes field. And so I put a rule in here. I said, I need this column to not equal blank. And then I put a custom validation message that says, this is required if approval is declined. So that'll make sure that our manager puts in some notes so they can be friendly with the employee and explain why the request was declined or how it may be adjusted so that it can get approved. So that's the gist of the form designer setup. As I mentioned, this is really easy and intuitive to use. Without this, you don't have the ability to do custom forms directly in SharePoint. And an alternative is Power Apps, and that is very developer oriented, very time consuming, and there is a lot of coding involved, especially for some of the advanced functionality that I just showed you. Yes, I will lose my work because I don't want to save the settings changes that I made. I do want to make sure I show you later today or when you have time, when you want to download the template I'm showing you right now. The way you can get that is to go to this button in the settings page called Install Business Solutions. And this template you will be able to download directly from this interface. Be sure to go to the Infowise Webinars tab. It will be the very first tile listed. You can click on that, and once you've installed the software, our trial software, which you can have for 30 days, you can download that to your own SharePoint environment and do all the things that I just showed you in this presentation. The email alerts are also really easy to work with. Once again, SharePoint out of the box does not provide you the ability to do these things. And in this system, it's pretty straightforward. We need an email to go out when a new request comes in. I can come in here and create a mail template. So I have a template called Vacation New, and I can come in here and select that. So there it is down at the bottom. And I get a visual editor tool. I can do things like highlighting. I can make things bold, different text sizes, that type of thing. But the key thing is I don't have to write any code. The information you see in the square brackets, that's dynamic information. You get that from the right side, and this is where you insert information from the list. In this case, the name of the manager, the start and the end dates, the name of the employee, that type of thing. And then the bottom of the email is a link back to the edit form. In fact, I'll show you what the email looks like. I'm going to open that up right now. I'm just popping it open in another window. Give me 1 second. Okay, so that's really simple, right to the point. So, Will Cooper, your vacation request was approved, and you can access it here. So rather than them having to dig for the information, they can just click on the link and it'll take them directly back to the site. So the email notifications are very easy to work with. Okay, so the other one was the approval update. And in this case, I have a special condition that I'm picking up on. And so I say when the item's modified and the approval after change is pending. And then I have my template for that. So it's a very intuitive system to work with. And there's my email for the approval update. So that's how you can do the email alerts. And then we need to trigger an update to the other list to do the totaling. So I have a single action in here, and it just automatically will occur. This is a workflow situation, and what I say is I want to update the vacation totals. And I basically tell it to update a column called ID, and that's a clue to that other system, hey, I need to go to that list and retotal. Now, as I mentioned, the vacation totals is automated, so it's going to automatically get summary totals for that. And the way that works is that based on that update triggered from the other list, I have a couple of actions here. One is to calculate the total number of hours. So what we're looking for is it's going to go through and look for all the records for that employee. And in particular, we need to check for the ones where it's approved. So this represents vacation time taken. And then in this totals list, it's going to update this column for hours used with the sum of those values. So we want to do that each time there's an update. And then there's just one other additional update. We just need to subtract hours used from hours available, and then that tells them how many hours are left. So obviously we wouldn't have to do any of that manually, and that's why we have this automation set up with this system. There's lots of things that can be done with the calendar configuration. So you can make it look however you want, as I kind of showed that earlier, but that's really easy to set up. You just create a calendar profile in the settings screen, and you can configure some of the options and things that you want. That's done from our settings screen under the event calendars function. And there's the vacation calendar I set up. I can just go in here and configure a profile and select the options that I want. Notice that I select from a view called approved because I only wanted to show vacation on the calendar that had actually been approved. Until that point, it shouldn't appear on that calendar. So that's where you can do that. And then if you remember, I also had some hover information. I can configure that here. Very customizable. Some of you guys may have had some struggles trying to use a calendar with out-of-the-box SharePoint, and in many cases, it doesn't do everything that you want to do. This calendar has a lot of extra functionality and configuration options, so I think that's something you'll especially like. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how you can get access to the tools, and then we're going to do the drawing for the shirt. So you can try everything that I'm showing today for free. So you can go into the Infowise site and get free trial. So what you want to do is come in here and click on the Try Now for free and click on Install and just walk through the steps. It'll tell you what to do. It's really easy, and this will allow you to get our full software with no limitation at all, except that it times out after 30 days. So it's very easy to get a hold of that software. If you have questions about pricing, you can go to our pricing page to look at that information. If you want to talk with us directly, we're happy to do that as well. If you do request a demo, what's going to happen is it'll make a request to us, and we'll schedule a web meeting, and we can actually have a conversation and talk about your own specific needs in your organization. We can get into more detailed questions about the product, that type of thing. So that's something I would encourage you to look at. There is a ton of information in our site available to you. I'll call out just a little bit of that. For one thing, there's a tutorial section. I recommend in particular you check out the Getting Started section, and you might begin with our Kickstart training. That's a good place to get started. It gives you some walkthroughs and basic examples. If you're interested in other types of solutions, we've been providing these webinars for many years. So whatever it is that you want to build in your SharePoint environment, we've probably done something very similar, if not exactly just like what you want. So these tools aren't just about vacation tracking. It's about allowing you to build all kinds of different solutions in SharePoint. All right, let's go ahead and do a drawing for the shirt right now, since I didn't promise to do that. So what I want you to do is use the questions interface, and I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. I need a number from 1 to 100, and I'm going to pick a winner. Make sure you're in the United States in order to be eligible for that shirt, and we'll get a shirt mailed out to you today. And I will check out your questions meanwhile. Simon had a question about, can you do half-day tracking? Yes, Simon. That's the reason why there's an hours field in addition to the start and end date. So the employee can make some notes and say, I'm taking a half day on this particular Friday, that type of thing. And that's also why the manager reviews that. So that is the way that you would handle half days. The calendar is really just to indicate in general which days people are out. But as far as the precision tracking in half days, you would do that through the use of the hours field where the employee indicates the precise number of hours. Okay, I'm going to call stop on the drawing. And we do have a winner. It looks like it is Tammy. She got very close to my number. Tammy, I need you to send me an email with your mailing address and shirt size. And my email address is willc@infowisesolutions.com. That's WILLC@infowisesolutions.com, and we'll get you fixed up. Is there a tutorial on how to work with this template? There are tutorials explaining all of the aspects of what I showed. The template you can download, Carlos. So what you should do is install the trial software first. Once you've done that, you can go in and play around with that. And also, as I mentioned, there's training videos such as Kickstart training. Can you make it so that more than one manager can approve? Lori, certainly it can do that. This is just an example of a basic template. You could think of it as a starting point. You can modify this and have it work however you want. So if you want a two-step approval process, that really wouldn't be very much different from this. So this template I mentioned, this is something that you can configure and adjust to match whatever your specific process is. Okay. So let's see what other questions we have. Can you have categories of tracking? You certainly can. Again, this is much like my answer to the other question. You could add a category field for this, and then you could have tailored reporting according to that. So basically, that would just be a minor modification. This solution especially is emphasizing vacation, but we all know that people are out for other reasons as well. So that would just be what you would do. You just have an additional field for category, and then naturally you could do some individual totaling for that as well. So it would not be too difficult to tailor it to that requirement. Sick time, floating holidays, that's the type of thing. Yeah, you can do that. So you could think of this as kind of like your starting point. So this kind of handles those fundamentals. I would recommend that you handle things in an incremental manner. So maybe you guys could get out the door with this and get it going. And then these tools will allow you to customize that form to incorporate those additional requirements. So certainly it would fit with that quite easily. Can someone submit a request on behalf of somebody else? Yes, that's certainly possible. By default, it will default their name in there when they request it, but you can remove that and enter another employee name. So that would be very easy to do. Good questions. I appreciate that. Carlos, you have another question about it. That probably should best be handled by our support. So if you have additional questions, that would be outside the scope of our presentation today. Just send an email to support@infowisesolutions.com, and we'll be sure to help you out. Okay, that covers the main part of our presentation. Our part 2 is going to be about SharePoint dashboards. So before I move on to that, I want to make sure that you guys have had the chance to ask any additional questions. If for some reason I didn't do a complete job of answering questions, or you want to talk more about this, again, I just want to emphasize that you can sign up for a demo from the homepage of the Infowise Solutions website. So that way we can do a web meeting and talk one-on-one. So that'd be a good way to pursue that. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of the presentation. We're going to talk about SharePoint dashboards. Okay, SharePoint dashboards is a additional software platform available to you, which is aimed at allowing you to build a nice user interface and do things like charting, reporting, KPI indicators, things like that. In fact, many of the things that you saw on the dashboards I just showed you come from this tool. The good thing about this is much like Ultimate Forms, it's very easy to work with. You don't have to do any coding, and it's easy to get started. And you can actually sign up for this, and it will provide you 20 free templates. You don't have to pay anything for that. You never will have to pay anything for that. And it'll let you get access to some things that I'm sure that you would like. In particular, notice some things like the custom edit button, check boxes, status indicators. There's some things in there that you can tap into immediately that'll get you started with that. And then later, if you decide to, you can look at signing up for the pro templates, of which there are quite a few. So when you get into the site, the first thing you can do when you click Get Started, you can browse through the examples in here, and you'll notice that there's lots of charting templates. That's a big part of this. So for any of you guys out there who've been wanting to incorporate charting into SharePoint, it could be that Power BI is too expensive or too complicated. You haven't necessarily wanted to do that. And of course, out of the box, SharePoint only provides just maybe one or two extremely simple charts with no configuration options. So this is a charting solution if you want to add that to SharePoint in addition to being many other things. This can let you put in buttons into your interface. I mentioned things like the edit button, view button, menu buttons, delete, links to download from files, to run flow, all that type of thing. Those are in here. And for all these templates, you work from a visual tool where you can just pick simple configuration options. So this is probably the template I use more often than any other template. This is the edit button, which I love to have as the first column in SharePoint lists. And in each of these templates, it all follows the same pattern. You've got a instructional area in the lower left in the blue box. Often you will have a video tutorial, which you can click on. That'll link you out to a YouTube video. And it gives you some notes on specific things about that template. And then in the editor tool, when I do things like change the colors, you're going to see it change real time in the interface. So much like the Ultimate Forms form designer tool, you see exactly what you're going to get at any given time. So I can do things like change the font family, the text, how it works differently on the hover, that kind of thing. Maybe I don't want a curved border. You can see as I'm making these changes, it changes immediately real time in the interface. And then in order to use these templates, it's a very simple process. Let me log in. It's not logged in right now. Basically, once you have your settings the way that you want, you just hit copy template, and it's going to give you instructions on how to use it. And in SharePoint, all that you have to do is copy and paste. So to come back over into a SharePoint environment, I'll just show you a little bit about how that works. So let me go to the edit button example. Come into SharePoint, and this is in a modern list view, and you go to format this column and just click on the advanced mode, and then you just paste in here, and that's all there is to it, and your button will show up. In fact, let's go ahead and grab that version of this. And this gives you those steps just to help you remember exactly what to do. So if I want this green edit button to appear in my SharePoint list, I just go to column settings, format this column, and paste, and it will immediately appear. Boom, there it is. And that's how all the templates work. You just paste in the template, and it will immediately appear. To sign up for this, it's really straightforward. When you come in here and after you click Get Started, if you click on this free area, it'll link you into a sign up form. And all you have to do is provide your name and email address. And once you click sign up, you'll get an email sent over to you, which will allow you to log into the site. And as I mentioned, there are 20 templates. They're easy to find in here because they all have that green pill next to them. So if I scroll through, you can see many of the button templates are free. And then as you're working with those, you want to contemplate some of these other templates that, of course, are cool. They provide a lot of additional functionality. You can go check that out. What's great about this is you can actually interact with these and see what these templates do. As an example, I really like the Google Map cards. So even if you're have the light sign up, I can go in here and I can change the colors and widths, and I can see exactly what it would look like inside of my SharePoint. In this case, I can do things like control the zoom on the map, and it's updating real time. So I know exactly what that's going to look like in SharePoint. I can switch this over to a satellite view, and there are a ton of options in here. So as of right now, in total, there's 93 templates, 20 of them are free, and this is all through a subscription that you can sign up for, which is very attainable. So you guys can check that out if you click on the upgrade page, but you do not have to sign up for a major commitment. You merely have to sign up for a monthly subscription, which you can cancel anytime you want. So there's tons and tons of different options, and they really run the gamut in terms of different things you can do. So for example, in our webinar, we talked about Gantt charts. That's a popular thing to do. There's a template for that. And then you can also do things like change the themes. There's a theme selector where you can look at different examples. And then from there, you can reconfigure that however you want. So that just gives you ideas on what you can do. But in fact, you have complete control over the template. You can adjust any aspect of that. You can adjust the width. You can basically just keep clicking on these settings and adjusting things until it looks just exactly the way that you want. All of the templates work in that manner. So I do want to mention this particular tool, unlike Ultimate Forms, is for SharePoint Online. These templates are compatible with that platform. Unfortunately, Microsoft hasn't fully allowed for this API to work for on-premise SharePoint just yet. But if you use SharePoint Online, everything in here automatically, absolutely will work for you in your SharePoint environment. As I mentioned, you can check out YouTube videos. There's lots of them. So if you click on the updates page, that'll take you out to my YouTube channel. Whoops, I didn't mean for that to kick off. And it shows videos giving instructions on how to use the different charts, walkthrough, step-by-steps to show you just exactly how to tap into that. So I like to think of this as a great companion to Ultimate Forms. So Ultimate Forms provides you all the forms capabilities, workflow capabilities, automation, email alerts, all kinds of different things, and it's awesome. This is kind of the cherry on top, if you want to think of it that way. This is something you can add along with that just to make you that much more versatile and powerful, and especially to have the ability to create a very compelling user interface. So I hope this is something you'll check out. As I mentioned, it's something very easy for you to explore. You can get going with those free templates, which are available to you at any time. You get your login, and then as you get more and more comfortable and familiar with using that, if you're interested in getting into the full set of templates so that you can do all this awesome charting capabilities and additional visualizations, you can look at the upgrade option to get the full template set. Do you guys have any questions about SharePoint dashboards? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, which will be posted on YouTube and available, but I am going to stay here and